At the verdict reading, the defendant Kiska is declared guilty and sentenced to be thrown into the Katarov dungeon. Kiska pleads that the accusation is false and he didn't do anything. The priest judge dismisses his pleas and orders for Kiska to be taken away. Kiska keeps crying that he was framed and curses as he's taken away. Our protagonist Kiska was born and raised in Katarov village. The village contains an S-rank dungeon called as the Katarov dungeon. As many adventurers try to defeat the dungeon, the village is always crowded. But Katarov simply works as a farmer. We see him sitting disappointedly as his field has been ruined. The village head's kid Darga appears with his entourage and taunts Kiska that his harvest was poor this year. It's revealed that the reason for Kiska's troubles is Darga, as he's the one who ruined Kiska's field. Kiska has no choice but to apologize to Darga, as Kiska is an Alks. People with silver hair are called as Alks and suffer discrimination in the country. The reason for this is that in the past there was an Alk who betrayed the humans and helped demons. Darga gets angry and tells Kiska that this isn't about apologizing and punches him, and the three gang up on him. Even though Kiska is always being hit and has his fields wrecked, he has no choice other than enduring the pain. Later, as a battered Kiska walks through the streets, he spots a woman who asks him if Darga bullied him again. Kiska is glad to see Namia, who tells him to sit so she can treat him. Namia is Kiska's neighbor and childhood friend and is the only person in the whole village who is close to him. Namia patches Kiska up, who thanks him for that. Namia asks him why people don't like him. Kiska is hopeless as his silver hair is disgusting to everyone else. Namia tries to cheer him up by saying that his hair is cool, which surprises him. Kiska's silver hair only brings unluckiness to him, but Namia accepts him no matter what. Nami lets Kiska know that she'll marry Darga, which shocks Kiska and deeply saddens him, but he is still able to congratulate her. Namia asks Kiska if he is fine with her marrying Darga, which confuses him. Namia asks Kiska if he will spend his entire life in the village, and he answers yes. Namia suggests him that he shouldn't stay in the village as everyone bullies you, and if he stays here then he'll end up broken. Kiska asks Namia what he can do, as the village is the only place he can stay at. At this, Namia grabs his hand and suggests him to elope with her, which surprises him. Namia reveals that she has some savings at her house and they should be enough to live off of, so they have a chance to run away. Kiska asks Namia if she's sure, and she replies that she doesn't want to marry someone like Darga. Kiska now confesses his feelings to Namia, who reciprocates the feelings. Later, Kiska leaves his house with his few belongings and is happy that he and Namia will leave the village, so his dark days have come to an end, as Namia and him will now run away from the village. But as he reaches Namia's house, he hears her screams and rushes inside, worried for her, and sees that Darga and his friends are harassing her. Darga angrily asks Kiska why he's there. Kiska asks Darga what he's doing, at which Darga replies that it's pretty clear. Kiska sees Namia crying, at which he musters some courage and tells Darga to move, but as he doesn't comply, Kiska punches him in the face. This angers Darga, punches Kiska in his gut, and then knees his face, causing him to fall down. The three gang up on Kiska and begin to beat him up. Namia shouts at him to stop, and Darga takes a pause and asks Kiska what he's doing there at this time, as Namia is his fiancé. Darga's mom pins Kiska down, and Darga violently pulls one of Kiska's nails to get him to spit the truth. Namia can't stand this and tells Darga that she'll speak the truth if he stops. Kiska tries to stop Namia, but Darga hits him once more. Kiska keeps wishing for Namia to not tell Darga anything, but Kiska begins losing his consciousness from being hit over and over again, while Namia tells Darga their plan. As Kiska loses his consciousness, he sees Namia smiling at him as she gets chalked by Darga. The next day, Kiska is found guilty of taking advantage of absence of Namia's parents to infiltrate her home, to violate her body, and then murder her, and so is sentenced to be sent to the Karatov dungeon. Kiska has lost all hope, as Namia is now dead because Darga got mad after learning the truth and so killed her and then pinned everything on Kiska. The man asks Kiska for his last words, but he remains silent because even though he said he wasn't in the wrong, the false testimony of Darga and his men, as well as the head of the village's appearance, made it all futile, so there's no hope for Kiska now. The execution commences, and the rope binding Kiska is cute. Darga scoffs as he thinks that it doesn't matter whether the rope is cut or not, Kiska won't survive. This is true because no one returned alive after going through the teleport, so it's the same as death. Kiska is pushed onto the teleportation circle by the guards, which begins shining as the process begins. Kiska begins filling up with hate as Namia was killed by Darga and the village head, and the public didn't listen to his testimony. Kiska lands in the dungeon and begins walking around the S-rank Katarov dungeon. He hears loud noises and sees a monster walking nearby. It's a rank, a bugbear, seeing which Kiska being trembling. Kiska has heard about Bugbear from other adventurers who said that after meeting with the monster you can't go back home. The Bugbear comes after Kiska, who tries to get away. The monster tries to strike Kiska, but his punch misses him and smashes into the floor. Kiska thinks that he's dead now and falls to the ground as he screams for someone to help him. Suddenly, a bright figure appears before him which asks Kiska if he wants it to help him. Kiska pleads it to help him, at which a woman suddenly appears and gives him the skill save and reset and disappears. Kiska panics as he doesn't know how to use the skill. He wonders how to use it to defeat the Bugbear standing in front of him. The monster punches Kiska and sends him flying, leading to his death, but Kiska wakes up completely fine and wonders why he's still alive, as he should be dead right now. Kiska was born in the Katarov village and always discriminated because he was an Aux, which led him to be thrown somewhere with a Bugbear, which led him to his current situation. Kiska wakes up and is surprised to find himself still alive and thinks that he should be dead, as the Bugbear just punched him, and questions why he's still alive. While he's busy thinking, the Bugbear closes in on him and kills him with a single punch. Kiska wakes up again and wonders why he came back to life, as he was just hit by that Bugbear. As the Bugbear kills Kiska once more, he wonders what's happening to him. Kiska again comes back to life and is still confused. He keeps on getting killed over and over again, but realizes that he isn't coming back to life, but instead every time he dies, he goes back to a moment before his death. This is because of the save and reset skill the girl gave him. He keeps getting killed again and again, but he doesn't give up and tries to run away, but that doesn't work, so he tries dodging to the side or jumping, but that too doesn't help, and he keeps dying and pleads for someone to kill him, as if he dies then he won't feel the pain. He tries to turn the skill to free himself and opens the status bar, but his memories flood his thoughts, and he remembers Namia and Darga, who killed her, and the villagers who did him wrong, so he doesn't want his hate to disappear and moves to attack the Bugbear. Due to the sudden movement, he manages to dodge the first attack, but the second attack hit him, which led to his death. By now, Kiska has died more than 100 times, but he's now figured out that the Bugbear swings its right arm first, which can be avoided by squatting. Then the next attack is with its left arm, which can be dodged by rolling to the right of the Bugbear, after which he can hop behind it. Kiska reminds himself to not escape from the Bugbear too quickly, as it will lead to him getting killed easily, so he stays calm and waits for the monster to attack, which he manages to dodge by jumping to the right. Surviving so long is Kiska's reward after dying more than 100 times. Kiska attacks the monster, but his attack is too weak. However, he can still escape, but he only has 25 seconds before the Bugbear wakes up, so he needs to be quick. Kiska runs and finds some hidden treasures, but they are of no use. The monster is now up and after him. Kiska has never gotten so far, so blindly runs, but triggers a trap which drops him to his death. Kiska has now had 200 tries and has fought the monster many times, so his movements now are even faster, and if he attacks the Bugbear's eyes, he will have 35 seconds to act. Kiska runs to the trap's trigger point and stops. He readies himself and triggers the trap and falls onto the spikes, but he actually succeeds in surviving as he falls perfectly in between the spikes. He can now finally move into the hidden room after so many failed attempts. Kiska heads inside and sees the treasure chest and acquires the Crystal of Wisdom. He uses the crystal and a menu appears containing different skills from which Kiska can only choose one. As he can only choose one, he thinks about which one he should select and thinks that skills like healing or fire magic won't be good, as he would also need magic generation. He also can't pick swordsmanship or archery as he doesn't have any weapons, which leaves only the S-rank skills. Acceleration will come in handy while escaping, but stealth will be better for surviving. He chooses stealth and immediately acquires the skill. Suddenly, the exit closes and multiple teleportation circles appear around him, surrounding him. Many Bugbears now appear right in front of him. He is unable to do anything as the Bugbears quickly kill him. In the room with the treasure chest, Kiska was beaten to death by 10 Bugbears. After that, he was back where he started and had the single Bugbear standing right in front of him. He makes it back to the room once more, but this time selects a different skill. With the skill, he is able to see the Bugbear movements in slow motion. After dying 200 times, Kiska finally realized that the S-rank skill stealth was useless when facing 10 Bugbears at once, so he went with the acceleration skill. The skill allowed him to land punches on the Bugbears, but it caused his hand to break as his body is unable to handle the impact of the acceleration. He returns to his initial starting position, but he's made some progress as he thinks that after using acceleration to evade the Bugbear's attacks, he may be able to strike back, so he should get acceleration again. Distracted by his thoughts, he forgets to dodge the Bugbear right in front of him, which strikes at Kiska's head. After around 225 attempts, Kiska finally reaches the room as he died a couple of times due to his carelessness. He selects the acceleration skill and begins to fight the Bugbears, but that doesn't work. Now nearing attempt number 300, he keeps getting killed despite trying his best with acceleration. He tries different plans, such as aiming for the eyes, but the bugbears endure the pain and attack him again. If he manages to strangle one from behind, then the other bugbears get him and thinks he may not be able to take down a bugbear even with S-rank skills. After 300 attempts, he has realized that he can't defeat the bugbears with acceleration, so starts again from square one. Now, after reaching the room, he is out of courage to even select a skill, as after dying he instantly gets attacked by the first bugbear, so there's no way out for him. He remembers Nemia smiling and Darga taunting him, which fills him with hatred, which is the only thing that's letting him keep going forward. He's determined to escape the dungeon and take his revenge, so acquires different skills and tests them against the bugbears around attempt number 420. He is trying out the physical strengthening skill, which has improved his attack, defense jumping power, allowing him to jump from one bugbear to the other, eliminating it. Killing a bugbear awarded him with a skill point, which allowed him to quickly upgrade his physical strengthening skill to level 2. Now, he's encouraged by all this and thinks that if he keeps leveling up, then he should be able to defeat all of the other bugbears. However, he finds that he requires 100 SP for the next level, while defeating one bugbear gives him 12 SP, so to get 100 SP, he will have to defeat all of the bugbears. He loses hope, as this is an impossible task for him, because if he can't raise his skill level, then he won't be able to defeat the bugbears. At attempt number 510, he begins to give up again, but his hatred for Darga and the villagers who betrayed him flares up, and his desire for revenge grows stronger, but due to the pain and exhaustion, he sank into despair and has almost given up, but accidentally picks the provoke skill, so assuming the skill is useless, he decides to die and try again next time. Thinking this is just a trial run, he tests out the skill and is shocked as he sees the bugbear crash into the wall behind him. He stands in front of a bugbear and provokes another one, which leads to the bugbears attacking each other. Seeing this, he realizes that all his hard work was for nothing and decides upon using the skill to crush all the bugbears. He uses the skill to great effect and gets all the bugbears to attack each other and ends up with only 2 bugbears standing. He provokes both of them at once and dodges them as they rush him, so both attack each other, and now after attempt 510, only Kiska remains standing in the room. Kiska runs away and tries to escape the headless monster. After defeating the 10 bugbears, an exit appeared there, which led him to a new level. However, the floor is being patrolled by an A-rank headless mule, which has already killed him 10 times, but luckily his respawn point had been updated to the point at which he had defeated the 10 bugbears, so he no longer needs to fight all those enemies again, which makes him very happy. He now reaches an unexplored area and spots 3 teleportation circles. Thinking he needs to choose one of them to proceed, he steps on the middle one without hesitating, because if he's wrong and dies, then he can always respawn. He teleports to an empty corridor and heads forward. After walking a while, he is shocked to find that the girl who had given him his skill earlier is imprisoned. He touches the barrier surrounding her, causing it to shatter. He worries because all he had done was touch the barrier, but regains his composure and asks the girl if she's fine. Kiska asks the girl if she was the one who gave him his skill and who she is. She gets up and introduces herself as Eija Tsubaki, an ex-hero who had been sealed away. Kiska also tells his name to her, which she finds nice. Eija asks Kiska to bend down. As he bends down, she surprises Kiska with a kiss. Kiska backs away and asks Eija what she's doing. That was Eija's way of thanking him, and she asks if he didn't like it. Kiska doesn't give a clear answer and wonders what Eija is trying to do. Eija asks Kiska if he wants to get out of there. Kiska immediately says that he plans to escape, at which Eija grabs his hand and says that she'll get him out of there. While running, they reach the headless mule, but Eija manages to kill it in an instant. Eija proudly asks Kiska if he thinks that she's strong. Kiska replies that she is strong and thinks that if he stays with her, then he has a chance to survive. Eija absorbs the remains of the headless mule. Intrigued, Kiska asks what she's doing. Eija replies that she can store anything she wants and then take it out later using the item box skill, which is pretty convenient for her. Kiska remembers that the skill was also in the skill menu. After completing Magic Collection, they press onwards. Kiska asks Eija where they are going. Eija explains that they are going to the room with the dungeon's mini-boss. This worries Kiska, but Eija says that they need to beat the mini-boss to move forward, and if it hadn't been for him, she still would have been sealed away, so she will fight for him. Kiska replies that it's because of Eija that he survived so long, so they should be even. Eija laughs and opens the door, and they spot a massive S-rank golem. Kiska is scared of the massive size of the golem and thinks it's 10 meters tall. The golem roars before beginning combat, and Eija tells Kiska to get behind her and he shouldn't worry as she'll protect him. Aja battles the golem while Kiska watches in awe as he realizes that Aja is very strong because she is able to hold her ground against the giant golem and thinks that they have a chance, but Aja makes a mistake and trips over, which allows the golem to land an attack on her. Aja tries to block the attack but fails as she gets sent flying into a wall. Seeing the worsening situation, Kiska uses his provoke skill on the golem, making it attack him. Aja tries to stop Kiska but fails as the golem punches at him. Aja cries as she thinks that Kiska has been killed by the golem, but Kiska laughs and appears unharmed and says that dodging is the one thing he's good at, as that's all he did while fighting the bugbears. Seeing that the golem's arm is stuck, Kiska tells Aja to strike. Kiska leaps up and uses her sacred sword technique, called as Dragon Slayer, which allows her to split the golem into 2 clean parts with a single strike. Kiska worries a bit seeing such raw strength, but Aja runs to hug him. Now, after defeating the level's mini-boss, Kiska thinks that things will now get better for him, but that's just wishful thinking for him. After defeating the golem, Kiska and Aja go through the secret passage and advance through the dungeon while looking for an exit. While searching, they find a hole in the wall and find a secret room which they crawl into. When they get into the room, they see that it is like a normal room with a bed, a table, a sofa, and other furniture. Aja says that it belongs to a vampire's room and says it could be Judith's, a monster who made the dungeon her stronghold. Kiska asks if it is fine to use it because Judith might get angry, but Aja says it is fine. They both go into the room and sit down on the bed and rest for a while. Aja wants to talk to Kiska about stuff, and Kiska asks if she thinks he is weird because of his silver hair. Aja says it is fine and looks nice and pretty. Kiska thinks about how he always got bullied because of his silver hair because it is a characteristic of the Arcus tribe which everyone hates. Kiska thinks about how this is the second time that someone complimented his hair, with the first being Nania. Aja says she does not mind because she is from a different world and asks if Kiska believes her. While they are talking, Kiska's stomach rumbles because he is hungry, and Aja uses the kitchen to make some food using the meat and some herbs in the kitchen and in her item box. They both sit on the table to eat. Kiska cries from eating the food because this is the first time he ate proper food since he has been exiled to the dungeon. Aja notices and asks what is wrong, but he just says it is a bit too spicy, and that is why he cried. After they are done eating, they both prepare to sleep, and Kiska sleeps on the couch while Aja sleeps on the bed. While Kiska tries to go to sleep, Aja comes on top of him in her undergarments. Aja takes his hand and forces him to touch her melons and says that she loves Kiska. Aja says that she gives the skill Save and Reset to anyone who enters the dungeon, and Kiska was the only one to save her from the glass container. Aja tries to make love with him, but he pushes her off the sofa because he already likes someone else and hurts her feelings, and she goes back to sleep. Kiska thinks that he should have been nicer because he needs Aja's help to escape the dungeon and goes back to sleep. When he wakes up in the morning, he notices a body hanging from the ceiling and gets very surprised. Upon seeing Aja's lifeless body, Kiska throws up and thinks that it is his fault because he rejected her the night before and runs away from the room. While running away, there are some headless monsters that notice him and he gets surrounded by them. He resets again because of the skill that Aja gave him and walks around the dungeon until he sees Aja again in a glass container and sees that she is still alive. He breaks the container and says that he will accept her feelings this time and that she will be helpful this time. Aja notices Kiska but does not remember him, so she asks who she is. When Kiska says his name, she says she does not remember him but that he smells bad. Kiska wonders why her tone is different and feels that something is wrong even though she looks like Aja from before. When he asks her, she understands that this is not their first meeting because she gave him the skill Save and Reset, so that is why she assumes that he has met her before. Aja says that he is her enemy, but before he can explain, she grabs him by the neck and says that this is why there is a bad smell coming from him. He tells her to stop, but she does not and says that even if he resets, the soul will know, and she says to never get involved with her again and makes him experience an unexpected neck twist. He resets again and wonders who Aja really is and if she has a split personality because she did not act as the same person as before. He says that he will not go back to her to save her again, but he will reset anyway, so he decides to walk around the dungeon while escaping from the headless monsters. He comes to the same room as before with the magic circles on the ground, and instead of going to the one in the middle, he steps to the one on the left and teleports to another hallway. There is only one path, and he notices a room with candlelights and a girl drinking tea. He goes up to her, and she says that it is rare for other people to come there and asks what he wants, and he says he is looking for a way out of the dungeon. The girl says that the way he speaks is rude and that she is the great ancestor of the vampires. She teleports in front of him and poked him in the chest with something sharp and resets again to the same spot as before. After this death, he realizes that the dungeon is full of bad people. Kiska wakes up again after resetting and thinks back to the time that Ajeva told him about the true ancestor of the vampires who lived in the dungeon and that her name was Judith. He goes back to the same room with the teleportation magic circles on the ground and instead goes to the one on the right. When he teleports to a hallway, he notices a room and walks to it carefully. He notices that in the middle of the room, there is a black sword with an eye in it. The sword is suspicious, but he takes it anyway because he needed a strong weapon to defend himself from other monsters and to escape the dungeon. When he grabs it, he feels a strong pain through his whole body and could not let go of the sword. The pain lasted for a long time and he passed out. When he wakes up, he notices that the sword became attached to his right arm and feels very heavy and he cannot lift it. Kiska thinks that the sword is useless because he finally made some progress, but he cannot move his arm anymore. He drags his arm behind him, but when he leaves the room, he notices a werewolf and gets scared. He tries to run, but the sword, which is attached to his arm, drives him forward toward the werewolf and penetrates his chest, beating him in one shot. He thinks that the sword has a mind of its own, but he does not care because he will do whatever he can to get out of the dungeon. He goes around to try out his new sword and thinks he can beat any enemies with it. Finally, he gets to a room with metal doors and thinks that it is a mini-boss room like the time he defeated the golem mini-boss. When he enters the room, he notices a griffin in the back of the room which Kiska thinks looks very strong. The boss wakes up and immediately flies at him, but the sword saves him by pulling him out of the way. The griffin uses its chicken arms to attack Kiska, but the sword helps Kiska protect himself and finally defeats the monster. After defeating the griffin, the same thing happens in the golem boss room and a door opens, revealing a hidden room. Kiska thinks he can escape the dungeon now with the sword and that nothing can stop him now. Kiska walks into the hidden room and walks down the hallway for a long time. While walking, he notices that the sword is getting heavier and heavier, and he finds Judith the vampire again and asks why she is here. Kiska talks to Judith and asks what she wants. She says that she wants to dispose of the sword that is attached to his arm because it is a parasitic sword. It is a dangerous sword that feeds on people and monsters, and that she just left it in the room because no one comes to the dungeon. Kiska asks if she will get rid of him, and Judith detaches her arms and creates a blood sword with her left arm. She creates a new left arm and runs towards him with the sword, but the sword on Kiska's arm helps him defend against her attacks. Judith throws her sword up and more blades come out and poke holes into him because he cannot defend against that many attacks at once. That attack was Judith's last resort because by using the technique, she lost her left arm for some time. He resets again in the same room as the beginning and gets upset because no matter what teleportation circle he goes to, he will reset every time. Going into the middle circle, he will meet a Jeha in her glass container and will attack him because she can smell something from him. If he goes to the left circle, he will meet the vampire Judith, who will also attack him immediately. If he goes to the right circle, he will be stronger with the parasitic sword, but it will take over this body. No matter which teleportation circle he uses, Kiska will always have to reset. Kiska thinks that the best way to escape will be through the right circle because he can use the sword to defend himself from Judith and any other monsters that he meets on the way. He quickly runs to the right circle and gets the sword as fast as possible and lets it grow stronger so he can protect himself against Judith. When he gets back to the room with the teleportation circles, he goes to the right circle to meet Judith, but prays that he does not. When he gets teleported, he cannot find Judith anywhere, but instead, the same room is filled with werewolves which he defeats so he can feed his sword. After a while, Judith comes to the room and notices that half of Kiska's body is black because the sword grew a lot and took over his mind. Judith defeats Kiska again and he resets to the beginning room where he gets upset because he cannot defeat Judith even if feeds the sword a lot. He kept trying over and over but kept on resetting because Judith is too strong. Finally, he thinks for a while and gets an idea. He goes to the left circle and meets Judith directly. Kiska asks for a favor and acts respectfully and asks if Judith can make him her disciple. Judith smiles after hearing Kiska's request and finds it interesting, which makes Kiska happy as he can see a way to survive, but Judith asks what she will get in return. This question stumps Kiska, who offers to become her foot soldier and follow her every command, but Judith finds it boring and again makes a cut on her arm to kill Kiska. Kiska resets again, but this time he's happy as he thinks he now might be able to survive by taking this route. To get out of the dungeon, he needs to become more stronger, so he's trying to become Judith's apprentice because she's a ruthless vampire, but isn't one of those monsters that you can't get through so he can become her disciple. In that regard, if he is able to offer Judith what she wants, then he'll have a chance to get on her side. The next time he meets Judith, he offers to become someone she can confide in, but Judith doesn't agree and is about to kill him, but he pleads that he has more to offer her, so she puts of his death to listen to him. Kiska lets her know that he's been working in the fields for a long time, so he's good at everything and is very good at building hideaway, but Judith isn't impressed and lifts her table up with killing intent and says she can do better. Kiska admits that she's right and tries to think of something to offer Judith, but is unable to do so. He finally gets up and reveals to her that he wants to get out of the dungeon alive and tells her how he wound up in the dungeon, but Judith is uninterested. Kiska tells her of his desire for revenge and how he will kill and torture all of them, and asks for her help, which she finds interesting, and now she wants to see how Kiska will end up. Kiska gets happy, but Judith tells him to not be so quick, as he can only become her apprentice if he passes the test, and asks him if he used a teleportation circle to get to her, and he admits he used the leftmost one. Judith says that the dungeon is unique, as once you step on one of the circles you can't go back, and takes him to the room he teleported to before. Judith opens a secret entrance that leads to the other routes, which shocks Kiska. She takes him to a dead end and uses another secret entrance, which leads them to the parasitic sword. Judith always wanted to get rid of the puppet's sword, but she can't even touch it as it's a parasite. Kiska has already used the sword multiple times, so knows what Judith means and asks her what he should do. She tells him to overcome the sword's parasitic nature and learn to control it to pass the test. Kiska asks if it's even possible, at which she admits that she's sure he'll fail it, but doesn't give him a choice as she will kill him if he refuses. Kiska now agrees to do it. Judith guides Kiska to grab the sword by the blade and not the hilt and then pull it out. Kiska pulls it out and it hurts, but not as much as when he touched the hilt. Judith tells him to now swallow the sword. Kiska is shocked but thinks that if he doesn't do it, then Judith will just kill him, so gets on with it. After swallowing the sword, he sees an eye which asks Kiska if he wants to become its master. It is the puppet sword's main body. Kiska asks the sword where they are, and it replies that they are in Kiska's deep world. Kiska asks the sword to lend him its power, and it agrees just like that, which surprises Kiska as it was too easy. The sword laughs at Kiska's reply, who was worried about the sword saying no, but the sword reveals that it agreed because something about Kiska's sword smells familiar, so it decided to come with him and wishes him its regards. Kiska wakes up, which shocks Judith, who didn't hope for his survival. Kiska had succeeded in controlling the sword, at which Judith praised Kiska and made him her apprentice. Kiska's strange life as Judith's apprentice has now begun. Kiska becomes Judith's disciple and spends the night in the same hideout where he had rested with Ajiha, because all hideouts only have one bed, so they did this to be able to sleep in separate rooms, as there are lots of hidden rooms. Kiska goes to see Judith, but she's still sleeping in revealing clothes, which flusters him. Judith gets up and greets him. Kiska also greets her with a bow, but even though he has become her disciple, he is captivated by her body and is having trouble deciding where to look. Judith announces that she'll teach him as her disciple and asks him if he's ready. Kiska is ready and determined to get through any harsh training. Judith smiles and goes to change her clothes. Judith asks Kiska about his skills, and he replies that he only has one skill, provocation, which even Judith admits is a bit bad. Kiska has another skill, save and reset, but he decides to keep it hidden from Judith. Judith moves a stone in the wall, which opens up a hidden pathway, surprising Kiska. Judith laughs that she knows everything about the dungeon by heart, as she's been living in it for 1,000 years. Hearing this, Kiska realizes that it was the right choice to become her disciple. Judith is trying to find better skills for Kiska and easily leads him to one of the treasure chest rooms. Kiska opens up the chest and acquires the Crystal of Wisdom and has to select a skill from all the available ones. This is similar to the list he had seen before, but the skills are different as he had never seen the pressure or enhanced judgment skills before. Kiska asks Judith which one he should pick, and she tells him to pick the swordsmanship skill, as the sword is now inside him and has become his flesh and blood, so he needs that skill to control the sword when he summons it, so Kiska decides to get the swordsmanship skill and gets excited at being able to use the sword whenever he wants to. Judith says that to get the next skill, they will need to get to the deepest part of the dungeon, which worries him. They reach the deepest part via a hidden passageway, so they didn't see many enemies, but still Kiska gets a bad feeling. They reach another chest, and Judith warns Kiska that it will be a test of luck and explains that the chest is from a woman who had all sorts of different skills, and he didn't get one skill, but it will be completely random, and so is his test of luck. Kiska opens up the chest and obtains the Crystal of Wisdom, which gives him the skill of attribute granting. Kiska asks Judith what it is, and she explains that it's a rare skill but is useless if you don't have any other magic skills, which makes Kiska disheartened. Judith cheers him up a bit and says that he is going to get magic skills sooner or later, so he shouldn't feel bad. Judith turns around to head back to the hideout, but Kiska sees a massive door and asks about it. Judith explains that it's the boss room and is also the exit to the dungeon. Kiska asks if they will be able to get out if he manages to defeat the boss over there, and Judith confirms it. Kiska is happy to find the exit and asks Judith why she hasn't beaten it yet. She explains that the boss is a SSS rank, and ever since the boss spawned 50 years ago, she has been unable to get out. Hearing this worries Kiska as she explains that to get out, she needs him to become as strong as her and then beat the boss with her, which is why she wants him to train. Kiska follows her back to her home. Judith makes a small cut on her wrist and shows him how she can manipulate her own blood, but Kiska is no stranger to her technique, as he's been killed by it multiple times. Judith turns it into a dagger and tells Kiska that he can do the same with the sword in his body, and he should focus his attention on his body. Kiska focuses to create the sword and succeeds in doing so as he obtains the Lord of Parasitic Puppet's sword and black sword skills and gets happy at that. Judith is also pleased that Kiska will be able to fight now. Judith gives Kiska his first assignment and tells him that whenever he sees her, he should try to land a single blow on her, and if he succeeds then his task would be considered complete. Kiska worriedly asks her if it would be fine, but Judith assures him that she won't take his life. Kiska didn't mean that and says that he doesn't think that it's right for him to hit her. This annoys her, and she says that she has the ability to heal her injuries and angrily asks him if he thinks that it's even possible for him to hurt her. Kiska tries to calm her down, but it's too late as she attacks him, telling him to show her where he got that confidence from. Judith continuously attacks him, but he is able to avoid all the attacks and thinks that he's made a big mistake. Judith says that if all he does is dodge, then he will never complete the task and attacks him again, but he avoids it thanks to the swordsmanship skill. Kiska thinks that as Judith can wield such a large blade with one hand, he will get wiped out, and even though she's only a girl, if this keeps on then he will die, but determined to complete his task, he decides to dodge her attacks and wait for the right moment and then attack, but she dodges it. Kiska is too slow and remembers that the last time they fought she had a big sword, which is the reason why he couldn't even get close to her, but as she has a dagger now, he thinks he has a chance. He sees Judith attacking him, but this time he decides to block it and then counterattack. He aims for her head, but she jumps away at the last moment and he ends up making a small cut on her arm. Kiska apologizes to her and asks her if she's fine, but she reminds him that this is just a small scratch that she can easily heal, and he remembers the time she tore off her entire arm. Judith praises Kiska for completing the task. Kiska thanks her and feels like he's grown a lot and thinks that it was the right choice to become her disciple. Judith points out that Kiska's fighting style isn't that of a normal man and asks if he has any experience in combat. Kiska lies that he has no experience in combat. Hearing this, Judith says that Kiska is very talented, but he knows that truth is that he has lots of experience. Iska faces multiple headless mules, as today he trains by fighting real monsters. The headless mules attack him, but he's able to block all their attacks, yet Judith still throws her dagger at him and scolds him for his wrong form and tells him to tighten his arms as he's facing multiple opponents, so he needs to fight compactly. Kiska heeds her advice and fights accordingly and gets happy at blocking their attacks. Judith tells Kiska to attack as the headless mules in front of him have run out of magic, so with the sword he has they are nothing more than meat targets, and tells him to be bold and blunt. Kiska jumps forward and aims for the mule on the left and eliminates it. Then he attacks the one attacking his back from the right, and then heads for the one trying to escape and makes short work of it. Judith praises him for his work, and Kiska also thanks her for her help. Judith knows that if Kiska dies, then it would take her decades before she would be able to leave, which is why she wants him to become stronger, and tells him to be diligent. Kiska earns skill points for defeating the monsters. Judith tells him to raise his level, and Kiska gets happy seeing that he's filled up his skill slot. Kiska thinks that as he's strong only because of his swordsmanship and parasitic skills, so he should level them up, and realizes that he needs 30 more SP for the swordsmanship skill and 70 more for the parasitic sword. Kiska tells Judith that he wants to level up his swordsmanship skill, so he wishes to save SP for that, and Judith approves of his choice. They decide to call it a day and head back to the hideout. Later, Judith waits for Kiska to finish working, and he brings her tea apologizing for being late. Ever since Kiska became her disciple, his job isn't to bring her tea, but to provide her with monster blood, as she has an obsession with drinking blood from teacups. Judith asks Kiska about dinner, and he says that it should be ready now and brings her cooked headless mule steak. Judith gets sad that it's the same as yesterday. Kiska says that they don't have many seasonings, so there isn't much he can do, and as he defeated a few wriggling trees, they have salad now. But Judith still remains sad as she doesn't like salad, nor how the wriggling trees taste, but Kiska warns her that she would become malnourished if she doesn't eat her vegetables. Judith says she's a vampire so has no need for nutrients, at which Kiska gets up telling her to wait a bit and comes with dried fruits. Judith gets extremely happy seeing them. Kiska explains that he found them on the backside of the dryad when he was out picking leaves, so he collected them and had originally planned to let it grow for a bit and then kill it later so it tastes better, but today feels special, so lets her have it. Later, while eating, Kiska says that if he had more seasoning, then he would have been able to make so much more, and Judith says that if she could get out of the dungeon, then she could get even more ingredients. Kiska asks Judith about her being able to freely go in and out of it, and she explains that as she's a vampire, a dungeon is good for her as it doesn't get much sunlight, so she stayed in it, but a strong boss came around, so she's now stuck inside. But that only one of the reasons, as in the past, there was a separate room from the boss room which had a teleportation circle so she could go in and out of the dungeon, and she was the only one who knew about its existence, but one day someone went and destroyed it, so she couldn't go outside anymore. Kiska asks her who that person is, but she has no clue. Judith eats her food and suddenly gets an idea as she believes that whoever sealed Ajeha in the dungeon is the culprit as they destroyed the circle to make sure that Ajeha can't escape. Kiska's heart shudders and he asks her how she knows about Ajeha. Judith says that she's a great person as she's the hero Ajeha who defeated the Demon King, which comes as a surprise to Kiska. Kiska has heard about her before, but this is different from the stories as it's famous that more than 100 years ago, the one who defeated the Demon Lord was the warrior Elysium, and is surprised to find out that Ajeha was the one who actually did it. Kiska asks Judith why she's sealed in the dungeon, but she also doesn't know the details and advises him to no matter what never break Ajeha's seal, as even though she's the one who defeated the Demon King, she has the power to destroy the world. Kiska agrees with her, but remembers that he already broke Ajeha's seal in an alternate timeline and hopes that it won't be a problem. Kiska asks Judith if she ate his share of the fruits too, and she smugly replies that she didn't. Kiska talks about not getting any fruit, but she sternly denies eating his part and says to go to bed. All this makes Kiska feel like a slave to her. After that, Kiska continues his training sessions with Judith for several months and levels up his skills along the way. Kiska happily tells Judith that his swordsmanship skill is level 3, which makes Judith think that the day they can escape from the dungeon may be near. Kiska announces that he will get strong enough to take her outside. Judith laughs, saying that he's getting better at this. Kiska says he'll skin the monster now, so Judith heads back to the hideout on her own. As Kiska is the disciple, his job is to skin monsters. Kiska returns back but returns at the wrong moment as he catches Judith without any clothes. She quickly covers herself and Kiska runs away apologizing, but she shouts him to stop. Kiska worries, thinking that he made her angry, but instead she laughs at his reaction. Later they finish eating dinner, and after doing the dishes Judith heads to bed, but Judith asks him if he wants to sleep with her. Kiska asks her if there is any reason for that, but Judith has none as she just don't want to sleep alone today. At this, Kiska says that he'll just sleep in his room, but Judith complains that he's being mean. Kiska laughs and thinks that she looks so cute, so if he doesn't do what she says then he would feel guilty for the rest of his life, and agrees to sleep together with her. Kiska gets on the bed with her and thinks that if all they do is sleep then it should be fine. Judith says that it's been so long since she first met him, and Kiska agrees, thinking that when he first met her, he thought of her as a scary person, and now that she's sleeping right next to him, he's feeling strange. Kiska asks Judith if she planned to kill him when they first met. Judith is shocked to learn that Kiska knew that. Kiska thinks that Judith believes that he can see right through her, but he only knew that because she has killed him so many times. Judith apologizes, saying that everyone she ever met tried to kill her the moment they saw her, so she always has to be on guard. Kiska assures her that he doesn't hate her despite her killing him so many times, and what he's today is all because of her, so he has no reason to hate her. Judith is glad that he doesn't hate her and gets on top of him and asks him what he thought of her when he saw her cloth less. Kiska doesn't know what to say, but she tells him to be honest with her. Kiska says that she looked very beautiful, and she makes him compliment her more and asks if he thought more, which Kiska admits he did, at which she teases him a bit. Judith asks him what he would do if she offers to show her body to him again. Kiska can't stop thinking about Namia and Ajeha and thinks about rejecting her, but is worried about what she will do, so he gets up and tells her that his life isn't that bad, and Judith feels the same. He's scared because if he keeps living this comfortable life, then the vengeful spirit inside him will disappear. When those bears kept killing him over and over again, he cursed his fate, but now he's strong enough to defeat the monsters and even has a cute girl besides himself, but he can't continue like this. Kiska confesses his love to Judith, but apologizes as he isn't ready right now. Judith understands it and kisses him. Kiska thinks that even though he loves Judith, he needs to settle a lot of things to move forward. Judith says that they will continue once he's had his revenge, at which Kiska gets happy that Judith understands him. Suddenly someone appears behind Judith and with one stroke lobs Judith's head off her shoulder. Kiska is shocked to see Judith's head roll on the floor and freezes in fear as he sees Ajaya stand next to him. She asks him why he didn't choose her, as she didn't want him to do that to Judith. Ajaya curses at Kiska and has a mental breakdown. Kiska panics seeing Ajaya as she's supposed to be sealed away and thinks that this is the same as her giving him save and reset. Judith's decapitated head tells him to get away as Ajaya is dangerous. Kiska sees her and is surprised to see her still alive. Ajaya gets mad at Judith for this and heads towards her head to finish her off and swings at it. Kiska tries to stop her, but he can't even make a single sound. After Ajaya finishes Judith off, she confesses her love for him and pierces his chest with her sword, warning him that if she catches him with another woman, she would never forgive him. Kiska bleeds and wonders if it will end like this after coming so far. Kiska wakes up again surrounded by dead monsters. He wonders how far back he went. He checks and finds that he only has the save and reset and taunt skills at level 1. Seeing that the rest of the skill slots are empty now, he loses his hope as all those months he spent with Judith have now become meaningless. He cries and remembers all the time he spent with Judith and loses his hope, but he still misses Judith, so decides to go back and see her again. Kiska takes the teleportation circle in the hope that Judith will remember him and runs towards her. He sees her and gets happy, but she repeats her lines and says that she's surprised to see an intruder. Kiska gets disappointed that she's forgotten him, but he still doesn't give up and asks her if she remembers him and says his name in the hope that it will trigger her memories, but Judith has no recollection of him. Kiska gets disheartened and feels like he will lose his mind and cries as he'll have to redo everything from the start. Judith asks Kiska if he's fine, but Kiska bows in front of her, and as he's done this many times and has had his heart broken. He requests her to make him her disciple, which surprises her as he wants to start from scratch with her, as after becoming her disciple, he plans to escape the dungeon with her and thinks that she might kill him again, but he is adamant that he will come as many times as needed. He raises his head and sees that Judith's head is no longer attached to her neck, but is instead on the ground. Her lifeless body falls to the ground and Ajaya appears behind her. She is as crazy as ever as she had promised that if Kiska hooked up with another woman, then she won't forgive him and drives her sword through his neck, ending his life. Kiska realizes that now he can't even get close to Judith, as if he does that, then both of them would get killed, but he learned lots of things from her, so even though he can't meet her again, he still has whatever she taught her, so he thinks he can escape the dungeon on his own and thanks Judith for all she did for him. Kiska is fired up to use all that Judith taught him to its full extent to break out from the dungeon. He picks up the puppet sword from the blade and not the hilt and then swallows it all in one go. The sword greets him and feels that it has met Kiska before. Kiska remembers that the sword said something similar last time. He thinks to the sword that he needs it to do something and asks it to lend him its power. The sword asks what it should do. Kiska is worried as the sword had accepted readily last time and wonders what's the problem. The sword has its own goals and wonders if helping Kiska would help it succeed. Kiska is surprised to learn this and wonders what kind of goals it has. The sword wishes to become human and says that it feeds off of humans like a parasite, so if it were to take over the body completely, then it might succeed. Kiska says that if the sword controls his body, then it should become human. The sword isn't sure of it as it's controlled many humans before, but it has never tried to become one before and thinks that obeying Kiska might bring it closer to its goal of becoming human. Kiska asks if this means that the sword will give him its power. The sword happily agrees as it feels that obeying Kiska is its destiny and promises to obey him faithfully. Kiska gets happy at successfully controlling the puppet's sword and acquires its skills. Kiska is happy as he can now finally fight again and heads ahead to acquire the swordsmanship skill. Now he goes to get the random skill, but as the chest is right in front of the boss room, it will take him some time to get there and the path will be dangerous. Last time, he got the attribute granting skill, but he had no chance to use it, so it's pointless for him to go get it, so decides to hunt whatever monsters he can with his current strength in order to level up his swordsmanship. Kiska follows this plan and hunts down as many monsters as he can and manages to earn enough skill points to fulfill the level up conditions. After hunting the headless mules for half a day, he is able to raise his swordsmanship skill to level 2, but as he's cleared out all of their spawns, it will take some time for new ones to appear, so thinks about going for the werewolves next, but decides not to as Judith goes there a lot, and he can't meet her right now, as in this life, they aren't close enough, so there's a chance that if she meets him, she will kill him on the spot, and if by some miracle they become close to each other, then Jeho would come for the two of them, so he must avoid meeting Judith while hunting monsters. Kiska worries about how to proceed when suddenly his sword calls him master and asks him what's wrong. They both are surprised at the puppet sword being able to talk. The sword thought that it would take it a long time to be able to talk, but as the two of them are quite compatible, it happened so soon. Kiska wonders if the accumulation of their user and tool relationships has caused the puppet's sword to gain the ability to speak. The sword asks what's making Kiska worry, and he replies that he wants to earn lots of skill point and asks what's the best way to do that. The sword knows a good place to do that and says that it will guide him there, so he should follow its instructions. The sword takes him near the location of the switch, which will guide him to the second stage. Kiska looks around for the switch and finally finds it, revealing a secret passageway. Kiska asks the sword how it knows about this, and it reveals that one of its previous masters had found this path by accident. While going through it, Kiska wonders if even Judith knows about this path. The sword advises Kiska that considering the monsters that are ahead, he will die in his current state, but Kiska is used to it by now. The sword laughs at this joke of his. Suddenly, the way Kiska entered the room closes off and multiple teleportation circles appear and monsters come out of it fighting, which he will be able to earn a great deal of skill points. The room gets filled by his opponents, the golden living armor. Kiska thinks that there are only 20 of them so he can earn the skill points and wonders why he isn't scared. The sword asks him if he thinks he can win. He isn't sure of victory, but he still has a good plan. Because Kiska has faced many dangerous situations, he no longer fears death, so has no problem just pushing through and grabs the sword with both hands as he prepares to fight the monsters in front of them, which he considers weaklings.